All right, we should be live here. Let us know in the chat if you can hear us.
Yeah, everybody out there, we've had audio problems in the past, so please let us know if you think we're having an audio issue. And the best way to communicate with us, I think there's a few people watching the YouTube chat, but there's a delay there. The best way to communicate with us while we're live is on the Telegram channel. Maybe you could do a lower third, Aaron, or something, or put a link in the YouTube chat to the Telegram channel. But
What is the
I'll see those
PSF?
pop up.
It's at PSF or PS Foundation for the Telegram.
It's
I always forget.
t.me/permissionless_software. I'll put that link in the Zoom chat. So yeah, welcome everybody. Today is December 22nd, 2021, Wednesday. This is the Permissionless Software Foundation's technical steering committee meeting that we have every other week. I am Chris Troutner. I helped found the Permissionless Software Foundation. Let's go ahead and do a quick round robin of introductions. David, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I'm David Allen, and I am a proponent of permissionless everything, but this Permissionless Software Foundation has Chris Troutner, so I'm here.
Go ahead, Aaron.
All right, my name is Aaron Shoemaker. I work with 3D capture, 360 video, VR production, and merging that with the blockchain and working when we can on kind of the dev school idea we've had for a little while, but that will come as we can get to it.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to have Sam here. Sam, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, my name's Sam. I am a supporter of the PSF and its mission, and I've been working with the cache. I set up a cache stack, so I've been supporting in that way on some of the technical stuff, learning that.
Yeah, Sam's been submitting a lot of helpful PRs for just little like typos and fixes, and he's been following along with a lot of the cache stack progress and asking good questions. So I'm just thrilled to have him here. Stoyan, why don't you give a quick introduction?
My name is Stoyan Jekov, and I'm helping with supporting the JavaScript libraries. So for me.
Right on. All right, well, thanks everybody. Okay, so as we do every week, we'll move into the agenda, which is a chance for us to just celebrate our technical achievements over the last couple weeks. And then once we get through the agenda, we'll just open it up to a roundtable discussion. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And let me see, make this bigger. There we go. Okay, so as we do every week, our agenda, if people want to see this after the recording or during the recording, it's on github.com under the Permissionless Software Foundation GitHub group in a repository called TSC for Technical Steering Committee. And we file all of our agendas as a GitHub issue. And so this is issue number 23. And so I'll just go down this agenda. And as always, people on the Zoom meeting, please feel free to interrupt me at any time. I love feedback and interaction. And same with people watching. Feel free to throw a question in the Telegram chat or on the YouTube channel. Okay, so the Psf Core Software, that makes up the BCH API REST API, the BCH.js JavaScript library, and the Gatsby theme for the web wallet. That's considered like the core cache stack. We have been in the last few weeks, about last month, we've been in the process of splitting up the Gatsby theme into basically Gatsby theme web wallet, or actually I think it's going to be renamed to Gatsby theme. Yeah, this should actually be Gatsby theme BCH wallet. So that's going to be our web 2.0 Gatsby theme for anybody who wants to quickly create their own web wallet and white label it for their own business purposes. And then we are creating Gatsby, what's it going to be? Gatsby IPFS BCH wallet, which is going to be the IPFS first version of that. So it'll still be a Gatsby theme, but it'll be intended to be compiled to be consumed over IPFS And when it starts up, it will launch its own IPFS node right within the web browser, and it'll communicate with all the backend services exclusively over IPFS. So that'll be like our more censorship resistant. So we'll have the Web 2.0 version, which is like normal and fast and has all the Web 2.0 user experience. And then we'll have the IPFS first version that is slower, but much, much more censorship resistant, especially at an international level. And there was something, oh yeah, so the Web 2.0 version, what was I going to say about that? We've got an Android APK that we've compiled, and we're in the process of, yeah. So I'm excited about this. This is something we have not been able to offer in the past because it's just simply been too expensive. On wallet.fullstack.cash, we can deal with freeloaders. So when I should actually give the background on this. When I was working doing DevOps for Bitcoin.com, we basically were victims of our own success. We had so many freeloaders and people consuming our REST API that it got in the way of our actual business goals that were making money to like fund all that. We were just overloaded by people who weren't paying, and this is. The main root cause there was poor management, poor decision making, that we didn't put guardrails up front to prevent that sort of scenario, and that's ultimately, I think, what the downfall could be blamed for. But it did teach me through hard knocks the lesson of essentially managing freeloaders. Like that's a very important thing, because otherwise they will consume all your resources and you won't be able to achieve your business goals. And so in wallet.fullstack.cash, we can prevent that by filtering to the domain. If someone is using the app and they're not coming from a fullstack.cash domain, then we can block them or at least slow them down, and therefore not let the freeloaders impact the legitimate users. On a phone app, we can't do that. There is no web domain that they're coming from. They're just coming from their phone. And so there's no easy way to filter that short of having them create an account first, which is another whole problem that I don't even want to deal with. I would just love to be able to offer this as a free service to anybody who wants to use it. And so this Web 3.0 cache stack article that I presented yesterday, and if we have time today, I want to go over a follow-up article that I posted to that. We'll be able to offer the backend services for the phone app will go to the community resources that are hosted over IPFS. And so if the performance is slow, it'll be because the community needs to step up and provide more backend resources, and we'll have bounties for that. And so it's basically putting the onus of this ability to, like, basically the performance of the phone app is going to come down to the community. It's not going to come down to any one person or any one business to provide this thing. So that's ultimately where I'm trying to head with this phone app, and the way I'm trying to solve that sort of freeloader problem. Does that make sense to you guys? I'll take that as a yes.
Oh,
Aaron, I think I lost your audio, Aaron. Yeah, I can't hear you. I can't hear
I
you.
was sorry, I was muted because I was checking the stream on another device.
Oh, okay.
So if I could recap here, basically we're able to keep spam out on the web applications, but not so much on the phone applications. And the throughput of the phone applications is going to be highly dependent upon the community stepping up and working together. And this is in our advantage, or in our interest. We have incentive to do this because phone apps make things work really well for these programs, and they open us up to a lot larger clientele of people. Because I mean, let's face it, so many people are running off their phone nowadays. And so I've been looking for this sort of thing because it helps to onboard normies, my parents, other people. If I can just be like, here, download this app, and there you go, So, yeah. But it does sound like we in the community need to help to facilitate those transactions so they don't get bogged down and the user has good functionality.
Yeah, good summary. Good summary. So the focus is going to be on an Android app, and we're not going to. One reason to focus on Android is that everyone in South America uses Android. I don't think there's anyone in South America that uses an iPhone. And so that's my personal focus. I also only use Android phones. So we don't really have anyone that can build and test iOS. Also, with Androids, you can sideload an app, which means people can just download the APK file from GitHub and load it on their phone, and away they go. Whereas iOS, you have to do test flight. You can't just load random apps onto an iPhone. There has to be a developer that registers with their test flight thing, and that's the only way you can get an app that's not necessarily in the store. And then getting an app in a store is problematic. It's basically a full-time job just trying to keep an app in the store. So those are a few things we're not gonna try and keep these apps in any of the app stores. So if anybody wants to take that on, feel free. But like I said, that's a full-time job in and of itself. And then we currently don't have any plans to develop an iOS app. So if any developers out there are big fans of iOS and they want to take on the job of doing a test flight account and keeping the app, compiling the app, it is possible to compile this to iOS using this capacitor framework that we use. Same workflow for the Android app. It's just that we need, if people want to see an iOS app or they want to see the apps in an actual app store, like that's going to depend on the community. Someone in the community is going to have to step up and take that on.
There is also F-Droid and APK Pure, and I don't know if those are, they just aggregate stuff like that, but those are places that you can get stuff that's not on the Google Play Store. I've had an Android forever because I worked in music and all the applications were, had to be downloaded from a website and didn't work on an iPhone, but they could work on an Android. So that's pretty good. And also, there's that whole MetaMask issue that's been happening where iOS, and I put some of this in the PSF chat, just a warning to people using iOS. There is a kernel vulnerability on iOS right now, and they keep doing updates, but every month they keep coming out and they're like, oh, well, there's another vulnerability at the kernel. And I was just on a chat with somebody who lost a Bored Ape, worth about 50 ETH, and he was using MetaMask on his iPhone, and I'm pretty sure what happened is the vulnerability is in the kernel. So when the MetaMask program went to sign for a transaction, anybody that can look at the kernel can look at those private keys and then steal that stuff. So that's another reason to be wary of iOS and keeping a lot of stuff on your iPhone or Android. Don't keep a lot of funds on there.
I have a question. Why, in fact, we need application at all? The whole point of the Gatsby team was to have a mobile view. It's just a viewer to the REST interface. It does not need to access some special device resources vibration sensor or something. So the browser seems, for me, enough to run this application. Why you need, in fact, the native application?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Stoyan. I've wrestled with this too, because I feel exactly the same. The whole purpose of making it web first is that it's device agnostic and everybody can access it. This is a case where perception creates reality. Most normal people who have no technical skills, they know that if they want to do something, they download the app and that's how they do it. And it's just, that's just the environment in which we live. I agree, it shouldn't be any more difficult for someone conceptually to be I can go to a web page, or I can bookmark this web page if I want a little icon on my phone. I don't necessarily need an app, but again, that's the reality. But people's perception is creating reality. So we're really just trying to reach people where they are. And I think launching a phone app, again, this is our primary focus is still going to be on the web app. But I think now that we have more, we've sort of changed our architecture in a way that we can now feasibly support Android apps. This is our opportunity to sort of dip our toe in that water. But again, yeah, there's really no like logical answer to your question. It's just that perception creates reality in this particular case.
I would agree with that. You know, it is really about meeting people where they are, and yeah, they, like you said, they've been trained to get an app. I mean, every advertisement right now is download our app, and there are some things like, I went to a coffee place here in my town, and they're like, we have an app for rewards now, and I'm like, why? Why did you get this app? You had punch cards. They work completely fine. Like, I don't understand why I need to now download this app to do this. But I also know that I'm not your average, you know, Joe Smo who's like downloading an app for everything they use. I mean, AutoZone has an app, and it's pretty much their webpage, you know, like not much different. But then what happens is you get these places where it's like, I go to their webpage and they're like, download our app. I'm like, I don't want to download your app. I just want to look at it in the browser. No, download our app, you know, sign in, do all this stuff. But yeah, it's a difficult bridge there.
I also, this is based on my experience with talking with entrepreneurs and businesses, and I really would like the PSF to grow into a consortium of businesses, and every single conversation, usually like about the fifth sentence in the conversation, is, oh, can you turn this into an app? And then I have to have that whole conversation of like, yes, we can, we have, that's totally possible. But getting an app on the App Store is a full-time job, and even then you're going to have trouble because it has something to do with crypto, and you know, and then so be prepared to have your app censored like every Tuesday. You know, like there's just this whole conversation that has to happen, and which is why I just focus on the, you know, my typical answer is like, no, it's a web app. That's all we're going to do, and like conversation over. And also I encourage people to, if they really want an app, to build their app, but it's different between telling people that, or telling businesses and entrepreneurs that, and versus showing them like, yes, here's the app, here's the file, load this APK on your Android, away you go. That's just a much more compelling to businesses and entrepreneurs. And again, I'd like this to grow into a consortium of businesses and entrepreneurs. So I think it'll be more compelling to, you know, other businesses that are looking at our joining our consortium.
I think that
if this SIA home screen can be used as an application, I'm not sure is it possible, because in this case you will need to just install this SIA home screen, and you can install endless applications inside it, which is they're just JavaScript. Yeah,
I'd be interested to see if how would that work in a mobile environment?
Yeah, will be this even possible? I'm not sure. It was just now I was thinking, okay, if we need to install 100 applications, why to not just install this home screen and have everybody install what they want inside?
Mm-hmm.
It will be nice, maybe, if it's possible at all. But it's interesting to check how is the current status there.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see that too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up and move on. We can come back to this to something we want to discuss. I just want to get through this agenda and then open it up to the roundtable. So JSON RPC over IPFS in the pay-to-write database. This is another big focus for the PSF right now, mostly for future cash flows. I'm kind of looking at the pay-to-write database as our, going to be our bread and butter in the future. That's going to be a big part of the infrastructure that powers the Dexes, which I'll give an update to in a minute. So on that front, I've been working pretty steadily on Psf Bch Wallet, which is our command line interface wallet. It's basically being updated to reflect that Web 3.0 cache stack. So some of the latest updates I actually just made in the last couple days is I'm going through, and it's easier if I show this window. Well, I'm waiting for that image to come up. Okay, here we go. So this is the follow-up article. Hopefully I'll go into this, but in that cache stack article on the right, there's this the front end, the local backend, and the global backend. And what separates the local backend from the global backend is the IPFS network. And that's functioning kind of like a bus, like a circuitry bus. If you look at like computer architecture, where you can have an unlimited number of backends connected to the bus, and then on that local backend, that local backend just needs to find one of many. It just needs to connect to one of them connected to the bus, and that's part of what makes it really robust and censorship resistant. And so what I've been doing lately is expanding that idea. And so now the CLI wallet can connect to a cache stack that's connected to the bus, but it's also now starting to reach out to instances of the pay to write database on that bus. And this is going to be a pattern that we're going to follow. Anytime someone comes up with like a neat service, like, like minting NFTs or, any sort of web service that you can think of, like the Dexes, those will simply be backend services that connect to this bus. And then the CLI wallet will be able to sort of navigate everything that's connected to that IPFS bus and consume it. So that's been mostly what I've been focused on, is the Psf Bch Wallet, just sort of expanding that, increasing the unit test coverage, and just sort of improving the nodes that are under my control there, to set them up as a template for others to follow.
So I've been playing with that, with the wallet service, the peer selection, the command, and it used to work directly, with the with the. I know you probably don't need a, like, if you have a wallet service, you probably don't really have much use for the CLI wallet, but some of the commands aren't, I guess, don't work like they used to.
Yeah,
like you can't see the wallet service calls or the wallet service can't handle like the wallet service calls anymore.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I actually, I think you're the only person that's that deep into the tech that noticed that, but I really appreciated you sort of asking questions around it, because what I need to do is shoot a new video because so much has changed.
Okay.
I did recently so this is the README for the Psf Bch Wallet, the CLI wallet, and I actually just updated this with a configuration section. This is what changed recently that you were struggling with, Sam, and there's this conf command which lets you set all the different configuration variables, and if you just run that part of it, it'll show there's like 4 or 5 different configuration variables, and by default it's now using freebch.fullstack.cash as its backend, but then if you're running a local instance of IPFS Bch Wallet consumer, then you'll want to change that setting to this, so that and this is like the more robust way to do it. I wanted to set the default so that it could just work and people wouldn't need to think about it. But if you want to be a power user, which I encourage people to do, you'll want to run your own local instance of IPFS Bch Wallet consumer, set this config setting, and then your command line wallet is actually controlling your local the IPFS node that's in that software, and you can tell it to switch to different backend services. You can like ask it questions about like what IPFS peers am I connected to, what relays am I connected to. Basically, the command line wallet is becoming like the way to control this IPFS node and sort of the gateway. So that's how things are changing, and they're not documented yet. Like this is, like I said, I just made this update a couple days ago. So
Yeah, I think the running the consumer and the wallet service there might be some clash issues with the ports. I think that's the only issue I had when I ran the consumer and I had the wallet service running at the same time. There was a TCP IPFS TCP clashing, so
yeah,
that's the only thing I had.
I think that's been updated. I was just running, but there was a problem with that, and I think that's been. If you start it with a shell script, you probably just don't have the updated variables. But now, like out of the box, you should be able to run the service and the consumer on the same computer, and they shouldn't have a port conflict.
Okay.
Yeah, good question, Sam. Thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, I encourage everybody to play with that software. Like this is really the thing that is going to be the heart of this new architecture, is particularly for developers. And like I said, things are changing rapidly, and I'm going to do more videos and documentation on this stuff as it matures a little bit.
Chris, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Since there is already a difference between the functions which are providing the SOP client wallet and this one, like we was talking before, the SOP will be more like a playground. There will be a lot of stuff. But will also this SOP wallet have this IPFS connection functionality? Because the NFT functions now are only there, like creating NFT groups and stuff like this. What will be the roadmap for these two projects to go? The SOP will be just like local node, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. So what for people who aren't following, what Stoyan's referring to is SLP CLI wallet, which is another repository, and it's a command line wallet just like Psf Bch Wallet. And the answer to your question, Stoyan, is right now it just uses the fullstack.cash Web 2.0 architecture, and I think like that's what my intent is to have SLP CLI Wallet be more of a community-driven app where people can be like, like you did with the NFTs. You're like, hey, look, I built all these handy tools for working with NFTs. I'm like, great, let's get it in there. Whereas Psf Bch Wallet, I want to have a much tighter quality control on. I want to maintain 100% test coverage for everything. And it will have this ability to switch between the Web 2 and the Web 3 different architectures. And what I really want Psf Bch Wallet to be is sort of the early release of our web wallet. So I want to get all the features in Psf Bch Wallet into the web wallet, but they'll go into the command line wallet first because it's easier to prototype them that way. So basically, it's the way this all fits together is really to think of it in terms of the development workflow. So if someone in the community has an awesome idea, they can throw it into SLP CLI Wallet really quickly. If they don't have tests, that's fine. We can get it in there, everybody can test it. And then if it sort of reaches a level of maturity and usage, then we can port it over to Psf Bch Wallet and do full tests and have a higher quality and be able to figure out the problems, because it's more difficult just from an architecture standpoint to get things to work in Web 3 than it is in Web 2. And then if it lands there and it is everybody still likes it there, then we can make the extra effort to push it up into the web wallet. So that's kind of how I'm thinking of how all these three pieces of software would fit together. Does that make sense to you? Yeah,
it was exactly what I was thinking. Like SOP wallet is more playground, but for example, if we go back to your talk a little before, the people will start developing services which will connect to this data bus. Mm-hmm. So they will need some wallet to test these services, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense to have something like a community wallet which is connected to the IPFS, so they can test these database services. So it will be like, I don't know, PCF Dev Wallet, or I don't know, or SOP plus plus, I don't know, but they will need something to test this, let's see, global, what was the name exactly?
Yeah, the global backend. Yeah.
Yeah, global backend, yes.
That's a good point. We can always backport the code from Psf Bch Wallet into SLP Cli Wallet. And maybe we'll do that. I think it's just going to depend on, you know, someone stepping up and doing it. Like if that's something you want to do, don't wait for permission. Just do it. That goes for anybody. Part of the, I mean, so it's like, what's the plans and then what's the reality? Like right now, that whole architecture is like 2 weeks old, and so there just hasn't been enough time to, like, I'm still refining the ideas around it. So, I mean, I'm sure at some point we'll backport the ability to interface with IPFS bus to SLP Cli Wallet.
Okay. No, I just wanted to ask for the roadmap so everybody will know where we are going. So if it's in the let's see, in the future that we'll have it in SOP wallet, yeah, it's enough for an answer answer now. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, good question. I'm glad you brought it up.
It sounds very similar to some conversations we had before, because we were talking that book, Working in Public, right? Mm-hmm. And how do you solve the open source working problem? How do you solve the drive-by coders? How do you maintain a code base that people can build upon and rely while also fostering innovation?
Yeah, and more specifically, I mean, this concept of roadmaps, I mean, this, maybe we should get into this I'll just put it out there and then we can bring it back up if people want to discuss it. But this, you know, Bitcoin Cash community is struggling right now with a roadmap. A lot of people want a roadmap, a lot of people don't want a roadmap, and I'm starting to think, like, in these areas of bleeding edge innovation, like a roadmap doesn't really make sense, because you really only understand like 2 or 3 steps in front of you, and then everything else is just a flat out lie and wishful thinking. And so any roadmap is that's what that's gonna be. And so I don't know, if we want to talk about like the integrity and usefulness of roadmaps, like we can, let's revisit that in the roundtable. But for now, let's move on. I want to give an update on the Dexes and the indexer, and then we can open it up to roundtable discussion. We're making really good progress on the Dex. As we announced in the last meeting, we got a matching grant from eCash to match the grant from Ava Labs. So we're moving forward on that. So Gary has, I built a prototype. So there's essentially 3 main steps in the Dex for doing a token trade. Someone makes an offer, someone takes the offer, and then the person who made the offer accepts the offer. And those are the 3 steps to create basically in those steps, they're creating a transaction. They're passing partially created transactions back and forth, and through the process of those 3 steps, they end up with a completed transaction, which is then broadcasted to the network and completes the trade. And so I built a prototype for the first step in Bitcoin Cash. And Gary has been working diligently on converting that to the Avalanche blockchain. And he's pretty far along in that process for the first step. And we already have like proof of concepts for all 3 steps. So the main work in front of us is simply getting like integrating those proofs of concepts into one coherent app that can manage the trades. And so Gary's been making really excellent progress in that. I have a link here to the developer documents and specifications that we're working off of. If any developers out there really want to dig into the details and see, how the sausage is made. And so, yeah, we're going to wrap up that first step probably in the next 2 weeks and then move on to the second step. We're also going to start ramping up for the eCache Dex, which doesn't officially start until January 1st, which is right around the corner. But the first step there is we've got code sort of scattered around for supporting the eCache prefix for addresses and their denomination, so their decimal point is different than Bitcoin. And so really what the first step there is I'm going to try and push some changes to BCH.js and BCH API to better support eCache. And then once we've got that, that's sort of our foundational technology. Once we have that, it's going to be pretty easy to port the code that already exists for Bitcoin Cash over to eCache. And then it's really just going to be, I think how this is going to unfold is Gary will make an improvement on the Avalanche side, and then Daniel and I or he will sort of port those changes over to the eCache side. And so hopefully they'll move in lockstep with the eCache being a little bit lagged. So that's where we're at, and progress is moving right along. I'm excited about that.
Very cool.
And so moving on to the indexer, again, I'm getting really close. I've built a REST API interface, so you can query the indexer, and it's also going to have a JSON RPC over IPFS interface. So this thing the indexer itself will be able to plug into that IPFS bus, you can query like the balance of an address, the validity of a transaction ID. You can get hydrated transaction details. So you can look at the inputs and the outputs, and it'll tell you like if an input is a token input and how many tokens. So just basically it's everything that I'm trying to match the features that SLPDB provides, except that the way SLPDB provides it is very different than the way this indexer is provided. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to get the same types of outputs, the same sort of time-tested data that businesses want when they're working with tokens. And so we're really close. I got the indexer to index the entire chain, but then like all the output data was messed up. But that was like the first milestone, was just getting it to the point where it could start from SLP token genesis to the tip of the chain and actually just index the whole chain. So we achieved that about a month ago. And since then, it's been largely like just looking at the results and then comparing to SLPDB, finding discrepancies, trying to figure out what the source of the discrepancy was, going back, re-indexing. And so there's been a lot of just that back and forth, that iterative cycle. So it's at a point now where the results line up really well with SLPDB, and now I'm just syncing from Genesis. So I'm literally just waiting for that to happen. And the bugs now that I'm seeing are so subtle that like the indexer will run for like 2 days, and then I'll discover the bug and then figure it out and fix it. And then I got to start all over again. So I lost 2 days essentially of indexing time. So it's looking like the indexer is probably going to take about 5 to 7 days to index completely from Genesis to the head of the blockchain. And of course, that time is always growing because the blockchain is always growing. And the number of SLP transactions on the blockchain is growing relative to the size of the blockchain. So yeah, this is a tough problem. It's a time-consuming problem, but things are going really well. I'm really excited for this latest iteration to reach the head of the chain. It should be, as far as I can tell, the results are the same as SLPDB, and now we've got the REST API endpoints to query. So I'm hoping in a couple of weeks I'll have some, probably one of these indexers stood up on a VPS, and you guys can, anybody in the SLP area can sort of ping it and compare it to SLPDB for themselves, and it'll be at a point where I can package the database and put it up on the Cash Stack website, and people they don't have to spend a week or two indexing. They can just download the database and be up and running in like an hour. Is how I'm planning on packaging this. So So that's where I'm kind of expecting to be in a couple weeks. So progress, just to summarize all that, progress is going extremely well, and I may even be looking at done. That's starting to peek its head over the horizon. The doneness of the indexer.
Yeah, I'm excited
Chris,
about
it
this.
will be
Oh, go ahead,
it
Stu.
will be good if you can add a Swagger description of the REST interface, because then more languages can be use it. Like there will be Python developers wanting to use it, stuff like this one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we'll probably do that.
Yeah, I'm excited about this because as I'm working with businesses around where I'm at, I really see the SLP protocol as something that's cheap and easy to use, easy to utilize, much more so than Ethereum protocols, those being very expensive nowadays. But there are so many use cases for a token like SLP, and having this indexer work well, and knowing that I can approach a business and help them build something on SLP and know that it's going to have some long-term viability. That gives me a lot of confidence when approaching these businesses with project ideas.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the cheapest and most effective investments that the BCH community has ever made, because running the cache that right now, the greatest source of headache from people trying to run their own cache stack is the SLPDB indexer, because you got the full node, which, yeah, that takes 200 gigabytes of space, but it's hard drive space, that's cheap. And, might use like a gig of RAM, like it's not even worth worrying about. And then you got the Fulcrum indexer that takes like maybe 40 gigs of space and uses maybe 2 gigs of RAM. So everything's like those two pieces of software can comfortably run on a Raspberry Pi 4 or any old desktop. Like they're not, but then you got SLPDB, and it's like minimum requirement of 32 gigabytes, weeks of indexing time. It's just like, it's so far out of proportion compared to the other two pieces of critical infrastructure. And so I'm I'm very selfishly motivated to get this indexer working and get it on par with those other two pieces of infrastructure, so that we need tokens. I think tokens have proven their value over time, and this is like the core piece of infrastructure for working with tokens. So I'm excited. I'm excited to I think this is going to really help the PSF flourish, with our emphasis on running your own infrastructure and sharing infrastructure.
Well, if it's this small, when I approach a business about using tokens for discounts or using tokens for, I'm working with an MMA group here. We're talking about having NFTs of fighters. This makes it cheap and easy to do something like that, where, we have a picture associated and it's just like a digital souvenir, essentially. You come to the show, you get a digital souvenir. Well, what's also nice is having this be so small, I can have these businesses running their own nodes, and for the most part, they're just like, whatever, this is what I need to run a business, but it also is reinforcing the infrastructure, right? It's not a high cost on them, and it reinforces what they're doing, reinforces what we're doing. Whereas if I come in and I'm like, I'm going to run a computer and it's going to have, 32 gigabytes of RAM and this much hard drive space, and it's going to be running the whole time, they can be like, oh my gosh, as opposed to, here's a Raspberry Pi, I'm going to stick it in your back room, and it's going to help run your discount program, and you're not going to have to pay anybody for it. And it's just you. Like, okay, yeah, it cost me $100 to put this in and a little bit every month to run it. So great.
Yeah, lowering costs. Okay, well, before we open it up to Roundtable, I just wanted to give a brief overview of this follow-up blog post that I did. So for people who want to access this, you can go to troutsblog.com, and it'll look up the current copy of the blog on the blockchain and forward you to it. So that's what it's doing right now. I just wanted to show you how to get there. But this is, and then once it sends you there, go to blog, and this Web3 cache stack is what I introduced in our last meeting, and it's a high level overview. And then this newer blog post called Realizing the Web3 Cache Stack it takes it down a level, and it makes it less hand wavy and more pragmatic. And the main image is this one, where it shows that same front end, local back end, and global back end on the right. Hopefully those aren't covered up. But what I wanted to really focus on just real briefly is this front end, this top level, because this speaks to, in that first article, I talked to 4 different use cases. Let's see if that's come up yet. No, it's still coming up. But the 4 use cases were the casual user, there you go. So in this original article, I talked about these 4 use cases: the casual users, exchanges or professional companies, hobby developers, and censored users. And I think this is really important for us as the PSF, because I think this is the profile of the different sort of categories of users that we need to focus on as a community. If we want financially to grow, we need to focus on exchanges and professional companies. But in order to get there, I think we need to focus first on hobby developers, and then casual users, and then censored users are never going to make us money, but it's definitely something that's near and dear to our heart and part of our mission. And so, like I said, that first article was fairly abstract. I wanted to break it down into more detail. And that front end section, let me scroll down to that. These 4 blocks in the front end section, in fact, I'll just go here. Up here, these speak to those 4 categories. So wallet.fullstack.cash is a really good example of a Web 2.0 app that a business or an exchange would run. And all this infrastructure that I have illustrated here, it sort of falls back to the Web 2.0. If you don't need the features that IPFS brings with its censorship resistance and its decentralized infrastructure, if you don't need those as a business, then all of this stuff it's backwards compatible. It falls back to the Web 2.0 stack. And so I just wanted to point that out, that like wallet.fullstack.cash and what we're doing with trying to build an app, that's all basically that exchange and business use case. And then the phone app is a good example of a casual user, just like I spoke about perception creating reality. These are the non-technical people, and all they kind of vaguely understand is I need to download an app, and then something happens. And so that's the user use case we're trying to achieve there. And then the Psf Bch Wallet, this caters to the hobbyist developer, which I think we all here fall into that category. And in thinking about this user, I'm taking a lot of lessons from MATLAB. If any of you have gone to an engineering college, you will have used MATLAB. It's a math software that's used for doing all sorts of engineering and scientific calculation stuff, working with vectors and different types of high-level math. And they're a very interesting business model there, where they give it to universities for free. And if you can prove that you're a university student, you can buy a student edition for like extremely low price, like maybe $50. But then when you graduate and you go work as an engineer in the engineering industry, they charge, I think it's like $10,000 per person to use the software. And that's how they make their money, is they basically give it to the universities for free. They give it to the students for free, which we consider them hobby developers in this case. They get them sort of, hooked on their crack. And then when they go to the real world and they're already trained on their software, and they're like, hey, you're paying me all this money as an engineer to do this professional service. I need the tools that I already know how to do my job, and that's MATLAB. So you need to fork up whatever it costs to buy me a seat to use this software so I can do the job you hired me to do. And that's MATLAB's business model. And so I think that the lesson to be extracted from that for us is that hobby developers, they're not going to make us money. They're not going to, but that's where the innovation comes from. That's why they're so critical and important to foster the hobby developers. That's where the innovation comes from. And then eventually, if an idea gets traction, it's going to turn into a business. And so these hobby developers are going to evolve into a professional business where then they have money. So that's why it's so critical to focus on these hobby developers. So that's really what that command line wallet is all about, for focusing on hobby developers, making their life easier, giving them the tools they need to build apps that then grow and become money makers. And then finally, there's the censored user, and that's what that Gatsby IPFS is all about. Is having the IPFS node right into the web browser, so everything's self-contained on IPFS, and building it in a way that is useful in an adversarial environment. Just because that's in line with our mission and it's important, and it's also our sort of the best offense is a good defense. This is our defense. This is if we move into a much more adversarial world, this is our fallback plan, and that's why it's important. So I just want to bring that up to sort of kick. I'm going to stop sharing just to sort of kick off our roundtable discussion. I encourage you guys to go to troutsblog.com and read that article, and any feedback you want to give me is appreciated. So with that, I'll open it up. Whatever you guys want to talk about is fair game. If you guys have any updates on any of the work that you've been doing.
I got one thing, if I can show you my screen.
Yeah, let me enable sharing.
I never did this before.
There you go. Should be good to go.
The sharing? Okay. So I was working with the I'll show you the app. This is the.
Oh, we don't have your screen balance yet.
It's not showing?
No.
Yeah, we're not seeing your screen.
Let me see. The way, share screen.
Yeah.
Okay, this is browser. Share. How about now?
There we go. There we go. eCache address balance.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I found a way to get the prefix to work. It's sending the call over to the full stack server. So this is. Can you see the block chair here?
Mm-hmm.
So we got an address from here. Put it on there, and it shows the denominations with the prefix there. So can you see this this VS code here?
No, we just see your browser.
Okay, let me give me 1 second.
I think you sent a link out to this, and you were able to compile it and get it loaded from IPFS, right?
Yeah. So basically, I took one of the functions from the cache tab and put it on there to get the denominations, and and I did. It works with this is the ABC fullstack.cash backend, I believe. So it looks like it works nice. Yeah, but that's it.
Nice, man. Yeah, good job, Sam. I love seeing these mashups. Like, yeah, take the code and mash it up and show us what you built.
Is this different components, like the balance, showing the balance? Can it be used like differently from your applications? Just this part?
This I can show you. I'm trying to figure out how to share the VS code. Oh, here it goes. New share.
Okay.
This is what I'm using. Can you see this?
No, we're still. Oh, there we go.
Okay. We can see this now.
So this is the check balance. We got the ABC mainnet here.
You might have to do Control Plus a couple times. Expand. Like, we can't really make out the text.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how to.
Are you on a Mac or an app?
This is Windows, so I'm not sure how to make this bigger.
I think it's Control Plus.
Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Yeah. So
Nice.
yeah, this is a check balance, and this is the code from the cache tab. It makes the denominations, and I'm using the eCache to address.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. This is all the React stuff. The show tokens, the same thing. We got ABC here, and that's it. But USD
Okay.
price. So I'm not sure what the question was.
No, I understand now. I was just recently we was talking before a week or two about creating some ready components like React hooks. Like you just put the use balance in the address, and you can use it immediately. But yeah, your code is on more low level, but still it's like a very nice example.
Yeah, on that topic, Stoyan, of doing a React component library for React hooks, what you showed us was an excellent example of how they did it on the ETH side. Probably the best starting point for that would be to create a markdown document in our specifications repository. So we have a specifications repository on the PSF GitHub group, listing out all the different hooks that we might want, and we can use that existing one you showed us as a template. And then I think if we had that organized as like a document somewhere, then we'd be in a good place for, as a community, to just community work on it and create a library and maintain it, because it is a good idea. I just we need a better way to communicate sort of the idea and where we're at with it.
Yeah, I already started working on it, but this week I didn't have enough time to work on fun projects. I have very busy in work. That's why not much progress on the multi-sig also. But next week I will have a vacation. 1 week I will be home, stuck home without nothing to do. So I think I will work only on fun projects. So
Perfect.
I think I will make project on these hooks and on the multi-sig too. But I already created a small React application. My thought was to have something like this React templates. So you make just a create React app, and you put starter, how they call them, and it will just show you just one hook, use balance. Just show you the balance of some, like the same thing that Sam is now showing us. It will be great, maybe start for my project, just to to make it a little more like component. It will be maybe even same code. It seems pretty nice. So I will just going to start just with one hook like example, and yeah, if we have some documentation, everybody can start expanding it with more useful stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I will just get some of this code if there's some repository somewhere.
Yeah, send it to you.
Yeah. Feel free to. I don't think you need my help to create a new repository in the PSF GitHub group, but if you do, let me know. I'll help you.
Okay. No, I'm still working on some personal repository just to have the first hook, just one nice balance like this one that we see before, like $2,000 showing. It's a great demo.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So interesting.
Yeah. Well, does anybody else have anything they want to share?
Well, as usual, I'm amazed at what Stoyan's talking about, and I'm really happy with what Sam is producing, because we're entering into a realm of stuff I really understand. So it's great, Sam. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have something to share. So I was on a Twitter Spaces on Friday with some people that are working with the Open Metaverse. So a lot of people may not know, but Metaverse is not something that was coined by Facebook. It's been around for a while. There are a lot of people in the VR community that have been building the Metaverse, and there is a group of people that was on Friday as they were talking about an open metaverse they have. It's in alpha right now, a very basic alpha. It's called Webiverse.com, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and kind of show you guys some of this. So let me jump over to my Zoom controls and go ahead and do that. So Let's see. Jump off of that and go to that. There we go.
There you go.
And let me go ahead and share on. Oh. Screen share is not. Oh, it's not. I need to do one other thing. Hold on. Window capture and Brave. And there we go. This is should also share with the people out there. So let me go ahead and resize that for people. And because I'm running the Zoom meetings, it doesn't share out to the folks on the YouTube. So let me get this going. All right. So this is the Webiverse here. And what's cool about this is everything it can be plugged into your MetaMask up here. And everything is handled through NFTs. In fact, you can bring in GLB files, GLTIF files. This is one I actually brought in right here. And this is a tomahawk that I made. And so you can bring in stuff like that. And if you go press the Z key, every one of this is built on Web3.js, and every one of these things are different objects that are brought in from outside the program. The idea being that the world is built through NFTs, and which I think is really, really cool. You can build your avatar and stuff like that. And I'll just show a sample of, let's just go ahead and drag in a piece in here. So I'm just going to drag this in, and it should load a little bit here. And then, and this is an issue that I have, is that you can see how large this piece is that I just dragged in. It's like bigger than the world. So I have to figure out what they're, yeah, I'm still scrolling out here. So this is a piece I captured in a hotel, but when you come from the photogrammetry programs, you have to either take it into Blender or other 3D programs to size it down. I need to read through their documentation to figure out exactly what parameters I need in order to load this stuff. So this is, but what's really cool about this is they're really pioneering this. They're working with MetaMask, so you can pull in NFTs from Polygon and Ethereum and testnet, and I mean hypothetically Smart BCH, you know, and that's also something that I'm interested in with the indexer as we get these tokens going. With the here, I'll come back to the main Zoom
That's a
screen.
powerful idea. So it's a 3D rendering engine that works on a web browser, and then everything in that 3D world is populated from outside of it as an NFT. That's a powerful idea.
Yeah. Like I said, they're very much in alpha right now. But okay, why is main? Okay. The main Zoom is not working, so I'll just turn off this window capture, and hopefully we'll be back at main Zoom. Nope, I'm still on window capture. There we go. There we go. All right, so we should be back. Yeah, this I was talking with these guys on Friday, and yeah, it's a group of people in the VR metaverse world that are integrating VR with crypto, which is really up my alley. You know, that's right where I'm at. And the idea that you can buy NFTs and bring them into this metaverse, and you can build your own metaverse, and you can create portals so you can walk through. So you could have your metaverse, Chris, you could have one, Sam, and I could walk from mine into yours. And because my wallet is connected, any objects that I bring into your world, I bring with me. So if I have a sword or a club or anything like that, I would bring them into your universe.
And you could actually trade them for like SLP or any kind of coin.
Yes,
perhaps.
Yeah, and that's the thing I've been excited about. Like I've been preaching the PSF on the Twitter Spaces, saying, you know, these bridges are here and they will soon be a reality to where no NFT is an island anymore. You know, just because it's made on Ethereum doesn't mean it stays on Ethereum. And I really do think that NFT production is going to move to the cheapest chain possible because, like, for instance, I'm going to produce some NFTs on Ethereum. That's fine, but the gas fees to produce that smart contract are actually more than transfer fees, right? So hypothetically, I can produce an NFT on BCH or AVEX and then transfer it over the bridge for cheaper than I can produce it on Ethereum. And so that's where I see things headed in the NFT space, where NFT producers will choose the cheaper chain, and because it's interoperable and because you could bring it into these worlds, it doesn't matter as much. So that's the cool thing I have to show this week.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I just love that idea. That's such a powerful idea. Because it's simple and it opens the door to so much innovation. Yeah, it's very open. You can build and do whatever, and this is where I see NFTs headed. Like the NFTs that I'm trying to sell are they're going to have GLB files, they're going to have OBJ files. You can take them into 3D programs, you can 3D print them. They're more than just having a piece of artwork. It's having a functional piece of 3D asset. And then the end goal is 4 or 5 years from now, you're bringing them into your worlds. And I was trying to explain to people what I do. And I told them, you've heard of the Metaverse, right? And I said, they're like, yeah. And I was like, well, I'm trying to build an asset library so that in 5 years when it's really big, I'm going to sell you your house. Like, yeah. So well, yeah. So you know what it makes me think of is the other Aaron, Cool Cleaner, probably 3 meetings ago. He showed us this website. I don't have it on my fingertips, but it was a similar thing where you're in a 3D gallery. It was web browser based, and you walk around and you can see all these different NFTs. And I think it's that CryptoPunk number guy that's popular on Twitter. He's the one who created it. And what it is it's a 3D gallery to show off your NFTs. And so me and a friend, we spent some time really checking out that site, and it was cool because you walk up to one of the NFTs on display, and if it's animated, it'll animate, but a lot of the animated ones also have audio, and so the audio will play, and so it'll be this audio visual experience, and you don't need, it's just everything's in a web browser. So I'm sure it'd be better if you had a VR headset, but everything's totally accessible to anybody with a web browser. Yeah. And,
that's the point, is to have web browser, mobile, desktop, full accessibility. You could choose the experience you want.
Yeah. And so that was an impressive experience, but then I think what you just showed would be taking it to the next level, where if you could replicate that entire user interface and user experience, then it's a very simple thing to, put a price tag on one of those things on display and have an interface for like, yeah, I want to buy this. Mm-hmm. And so like I can go, like you could build a gallery of your NFTs. I can go into your world and walk around your gallery and check out these NFTs, which might not just be artwork. They could be like your Tomahawk, like, oh yeah. Like you could have, if there's some video game, if someone makes a world that's a video game, everybody could have their galleries of like the different objects, that you could buy and then bring into that video game. Yeah. I'm really getting fascinated with artists that are sort of taking art to the next level, where it's like I'm seeing a lot of fine artists right now that are used to working with paper and canvas and oils, and now they're transitioning to the iPad and making their art there. And maybe they'll still do like a physical art piece, and then they'll capture it in a high res image, and then they can add just little animations to it, and then maybe some soothing music. And it's just like you can start with a conventional piece of fine art and then add to it, and it becomes, if not more valuable, at least like a different experience. and then tracking the ownership and being able to buy it. It's just, man, some of this stuff's really coming together.
For traditional artists out there, if you are listening, there are some really cool things you could do with photogrammetry, 3DF Zephyr or Mushroom. Both have free versions, and for like 50 photos. But if you're talking an oil painting, 50 photos should be plenty. And then you can do stuff like Stereo Photo Maker as well, where you can actually make stereo photographs out of a monoscopic image, like layered photographs. And that's actually open source. You can just search Stereo Photo Maker, and there's some guy out of Eastern Europe that like heads it all and does all this stuff. And so you can make depth maps and stuff like that you can take into other programs and really make creative pieces of artwork that way. So here
I want to show something real quick, just to, cause this artist Jill Bliss that I'm working with, she I've really been following her work, and she has this Telegram channel. If anybody wants to check it out, it's t.me/soothing_nature. And she's just starting to play with some of this stuff. So she does one of the things that she's famous for are these mushroom medleys. So she goes out every day and she goes and picks mushrooms and different plants and puts these medleys together. And so she just started, in fact, the animation is better there in Telegram. So she just started playing with, so this is an actual like physical mushrooms and a sorting thing on this black gravel background. She took a still image, and then she took that image and started just adding these little animations. So you got the sort of pixie dust floating by, and she was able to animate the gravel underneath. And I think that's all she did to this image, but I've seen her do other ones where like just one of the mushrooms will rotate. And, just adding these sort of features that physical art can't have.
Yeah.
And it just makes it more visually appealing to look at. Just different. She's just playing. But like these are the types of things that you can do with NFTs that you can't do with physical art.
Yeah. And so one of the guys I'm talking to, who's he's an older musician, but he was an engineer in metallurgy and blacksmithing, and we're just in the very beginning about talking about an idea of creating a blacksmith. It's kind of a game, but I consider it more of a utility app where you can the end goal will be the average user can smith their own NFTs. Right. So now that we're moving into this open metaverse where NFTs are transferable, and once we have a standard protocol, which is kind of what we need, of like if it's going to transfer from this game to this game, a sword needs to have this size of hitbox, and it needs to have this size, it needs to have this weight on it, and this is what a gun needs to have. It needs to have this rate of fire, yada yada. And once we have that standard, we can start to create games like that, applications where they actually get into detail about metallurgy. Like, so the idea is you can pick different types of steel, different temperatures of the forge, when to quench it, and like you could actually break your weapon and come out with nothing. But if you're really good and really skilled, you could create a game object that has a lot of value. And part of that would be we have an education component coupled with that where you can go and learn about metallurgy and how to smith. And so it had this real world aspect tied to the virtual world in which you create these virtual objects that you could then take into video games or sell yourself in the metaverse.
That's a really cool idea. I have a friend here on the island who actually has a forge. And I took him a bunch of empty whiskey bottles and we melted them down and we just made this glob of molten glass, and it's like and then it shattered once it cooled down. So there's just all these, like, you can't just go do that sort of thing. There's so much skill involved. And so if you could replicate even at a low resolution, like a little bit of the skill involved, between making like a lump of broken glass versus like a window. That would be cool. Like you could actually learn real world, at least a little bit. There'd definitely be a disconnect, but it would at least get you started.
Well, if we can make it detailed and close, you know, somebody that goes through a program like this, if they decide to go on there, they have a really good base knowledge, you know, because they can
Simulator.
yeah, exactly. Like, but a very detailed simulator, you know, and then the other thing I see with this is it allows the normie population to create NFTs, because fashioning 3D stuff is not easy. It takes a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of expertise. And then there's the other side that I'm trying to learn of, how do we store this stuff and call it up? Because right now, like NFT sites, yeah, they'll take GLB files, but no bigger than 50 megabytes. They won't take iframes, you know, so it's like the traditional way of like how Sketchfab and these 3D sites display stuff is they typically use, you upload like an HTML JavaScript file, like a web page, and then they pull that in like an iframe so that you can use the functionality of turning the object around. That's not there on these NFT sites right now. So you know, all you can do is show a picture of it, and people don't get to see the functionality and get to turn it around. You know, these are things that need to change.
That's where you're at right now, Aaron. Is you know, you're on that cutting edge, so you have the opportunity to define some of those standards. You know, so I mean, that's essentially what we're doing right now with like token icons. Is, you know, there's a couple bad ways people have done it, but they're bad ways, and so, you know, we're in the process of finalizing this token icon spec, which is, you know, clearly better because it's permissionless. And you know, and we actually have a spec. It's very rough. We have working code. It's very rough, but we'll refine both. And then, you know, there's a good chance that that could very well become the standard for token icons on BCH. It's just because people will adopt it. Because at the time it's the best thing, and if something better comes along, it's going to have to be a lot better. It's going to be so compellingly better that it's that it, you know, can overcome the existing standard. There's a lot of opportunity there in setting standards.
Token icons are a great idea for branding too. Like from an NFT creator standpoint, if your brand is the token icon, so you create the NFT and the icons got your brand on it, and there can be variations, but all people have to do is look at the token and they go, oh, that's that creator, I'm going to look at their stuff. Right?
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, so we have that specifications repository in the GitHub group, and there's no code, it's just some markdown documents. And so if you want to start, you know, capturing some of the lessons you've learned through your 3D NFT work and start writing down like, okay, like you know, this tomahawk is like, the file's this big and it has all these, you know, specific settings, and this is the maximum and this is the minimum of what I think objects like this you know, should fall into. You can start formalizing these sort of like, and when I throw those specs up there, they're incredibly rough. They're just my ideas, and that's the beauty, is it uses the GitHub you know, code tracking, so you can iterate, and you can see it captures that. You can always get back to the history of like who made what change when, and so it's a great way to iterate some of these specifications, you know, that are, and save it for posterity. That's a big part of this, is developing the specification over time and putting it in a place that's publicly accessible. And there's attribution to who came up with what idea when. Yeah,
no, I totally agree, and I'm trying to figure that stuff out right now. And once I kind of get a through line, I'll definitely start writing that stuff down.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, we've been about an hour and 20 minutes. We should start wrapping this up. Does anybody have anything they want to cover before we do that?
So yeah, I got some PSF tokens, and I was wondering about the how do you verify? I've tried using the message full stack, but I think it's on V3 or something, and it didn't work. You know, for
So you're saying message.fullstack.cache isn't working?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'll look into that. I haven't touched it in a while, so very well may.
I think the backend options it's set to V3, so.
Oh, okay. Also, it uses, so I'm glad you brought that up, because that's actually something that Daniel's working on right now, is moving that encrypted messaging capability over to Psf Bch Wallet. And so the existing message.fullstack.cache, it uses an IPFS server that's like a standalone thing that I created. And we're going to transition that to the pay-to-write database, so that's where the messages will actually get stored. So it's still using IPFS, just in a different way. Like, so yeah, that whole message.fullstack.cache thing is going to get completely redone here in the next month or two.
Can't you change the
maybe
Can't you change the version?
You can go. Maybe you can go to the wallet.fullstack.cache. It will be recent one. Or like Aaron proposed, you can change the URL in the configuration to the v5.
Yeah, the only option is I think it's 3. I couldn't change it to 5, but
I think you hit the plus button.
Yeah, you can add a new one.
Yeah, if it's not working with the defaults though, I need to go in and update that.
Yeah, if you hit that plus button in the config, then you can just type in a URL.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, cool. Okay, guys. Well, yeah, Sam, I hope to see you in the VIP room. If you need any help with that, reach out and I'll help you with that.
Sam, thanks for coming on. Hope you come on again.
Yeah. 2 weeks.
Awesome to see what you're doing.
Really appreciate Sam, I really appreciate your contributions. They've been really valuable.
Yeah, we needed another bearded guy.
Somebody said, love the beards in the chat. Cash money.
I know, I've heard that.
Yeah, none of us did anything for Movember. We might need to do that tradition next year, where you don't shave in the month of November, and then at the end of the month you see who grew the most facial hair.
Oh,
you end up looking like a Scottish Highlander. Right?
I guarantee it won't be me. This is all I can grow. I don't even shave. This is just what my face normally looks like.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way.
Okay, guys.
All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up with that. Thank you for attending, and a really valuable meeting as always.
And anybody watching, check us out in the Telegram chat. Ask any questions you like. And then there's also the PSF social chat for things that don't necessarily pertain to the tech we're working on. Anything else, it's a great place to go. And check us out on YouTube, and check everybody out on Twitter as well. So,
yeah, cheers.